When you're setting up your Google class, the first thing you want to do is to name your class. We recommend using your name, the grade that you're teaching, and the current school year. This keeps everything organized for your students, especially if your students are involved in more than one Google Classroom. Here's some suggestions for setting up your Google class. In the general settings area, you will see the class code. Just keep it as it is. This is a code you can share with students for them to join your class. But you can also add them under the People section of Google Classroom. Under the stream, the default is set for Students Can Post. We recommend that you change to Students Can Only Comment. That way, your stream will be uncluttered and more organized. You should also talk with your students at the beginning of the year and tell them what is appropriate and not appropriate comments. This would also be a great time to go over the acceptable use guidelines for technology. The next section is classwork on the stream. Hiding notifications for classwork helps keep the stream uncluttered so your announcements are easy to find and stand out. When you're setting up, if you go to the People section in Google Classroom, you can add co-teachers to your class. One thing to keep in mind is that you can only add 20 teachers to your class. Teachers that you add can post, grade, they can do anything that you can do. You might want to add specialists to your class, grade level colleagues, coaches, and even the ITS.
Every time a Google Classroom is created, a matching calendar is created in Google Calendar. Under your calendars on the left-hand side, you can see a calendar for each class in which you are a teacher or a student. If you check that class off, any assignments will appear. If you don't want to see those assignments popping up at you all the time, you can always uncheck it so they're not visible. There are two main ways to see this class calendar. One is directly from Google Classroom, and the other is in the Google Calendar app, which I showed you on the last screen. From each view, you can access and do different things. If you're in Google Classroom, or if students are in Google Classroom and click the calendar, the only thing they'll see are items or assignments that have due dates. You can't add events to this calendar because in order for something to appear in this calendar, it has to be an assignment with a due date. If you're looking at the class calendar in Google Calendar, all added events appear, including those assignments with due dates. So you can add additional events in Google Calendar, like maybe you want to put an event for a field trip coming up, or a vacation, or for the MCAS, or some celebration day. You're welcome to put those in Google Calendar, in the class calendar, but it will only be visible when students are in Google Calendar. If they're in Google Classroom and click Calendar, again, they'll only see assignments with due dates.
Use the stream effectively. The stream is a great place to put in morning messages or a poll, remind students about upcoming events or assignments. You can answer questions about particular assignments. Specialist teachers can also post events in the stream. You want to keep it interesting and interactive for your students. You'll also want to tell your students what the expectation is, if it is something that they should be checking every day.
Another thing that's automatically created when you create a class in Classroom is a class folder in Google Drive. Work you create in Classroom automatically saves to Google Drive. In Google Drive, you have a folder called Classroom. And in that folder is another folder for each class that you are a teacher or a student on. You can go to Drive and go to Classroom and see any of these class folders, or you can always access the folder via the class card on the classroom homepage. Most people never even go to this folder in Drive, but it's just good to know that if you created any documents or assignments, they all live in that folder in Drive if you ever need to access them separately. Be sure never to delete or rename the folder in Drive that's called Classroom. It can be very difficult to replace, so please leave it alone.